Hello everyone and welcome back to the TFC. My name is Robert Ryan. And we're doing something a little bit different today, as we are a mere 3 weeks away from the opening of the Ottawa International Film Festival's 72-hour filmmakers competition. I decided to do a little bit of a test run with how I'm going to record my thoughts on the way to and on the way from the wildcard event. The wildcard event, of course, kicking off on Thursday, February 12th, 2015, where I will receive my envelope or package or what have you with a list of criteria, a list of elements that must appear in my finished work for the competition. And I figured it was as good a reason as any to go with a Thoughts from My Car podcast. And since we've been experimenting with recording methods for Thoughts from My Car for a short time now, I figured why not do a dry run on my way to work today. So in that sense, you can consider this both Episode 2 of the TFC, as well as Episode 3 of Thoughts from My Car. The balance is going to be split roughly 50-50 in terms of the content. The first thing I want to tackle, of course, is the Ottawa International Film Fest 72-hour filmmakers competition. And just by the way, going forward, to make it a lot less fatiguing for all of us, I'm just going to refer to this as the OIFF 72. I may even shorten that if I find that too hard to say. Or not too hard, but too tedious. Which in turn makes it hard because I get bored. But moving right along. I have to say I'm looking very much forward to the OIFF 72. It's something, as I've previously mentioned, I've wanted to do for a little while now, the past couple of years. And to actually have my hat in the ring this year feels pretty good. I know through my Facebook feed that a few of my friends will also be there, so I will not be entirely alone, even if these fine folks are not on my team. Which is fine. I don't consider this to be a competition in terms of competing against other filmmakers. To me, this is a competition against the clock to put out something that's actually worthwhile. I want to put together a digital short that people can enjoy. I want to collaborate with other people, and I want to be able to put it in with all of the essential elements under that 72-hour mark to compete. So that's where I'm coming from on this particular side of things. I don't see myself on, coming across the judges' table and being recognized as one of the greatest films of the competition. That's not really what this is all about. It's all about getting it done. It's all about participating. And that's, if I can finish it and get to the finish line, that to me is a victory. But that's not all I wanted to say. I did have a few questions that were asked of me, to me. My teacher friends can probably correct my grammar forever, really. But moving on, after the last TFC podcast where I mentioned the preparation work that we were doing ahead of the OIFF 72, I thought I'd address some of those questions here on the podcast. And probably the biggest question that I got was concerning the pre-production that I was doing in terms of building sets and creating characters and whatnot, and compiling story ideas. And there were a few people who asked me, probably quite logically, if I didn't think that maybe that was cheating a little bit. Because the whole point of it is you start from scratch and you have your 72 hours to put everything together. Well, no, I don't consider that cheating. The first and foremost reason of that being that any sets that I create are going to be used in other digital projects that I'm doing anyway. Probably the most use that it'll get will be for Grand Bastardo videos, because as of right now, there's really only been two sets for the Grand Bastardo. There's been the inside of the bar and there's been behind the desk. And those sets are going to get rather tedious after a while. There's only so many episodes that you can really comfortably shoehorn into the same set over and over again before it becomes an absolute boorish snooze fest like an episode of Friends or Seinfeld, just to name a couple of alleged comedies that I'm not really a big fan of. But moving right along, I don't feel that it's in violation of the spirit of the contest, because if I don't end up using these sets, and there's a high degree of likelihood I'm not going to use these sets. The sets I'm creating are quite diverse. There's a science fiction set for another type of digital short project that I am working on. And of course, if it can be recycled into other stuff, so be it. That's great. There's, of course, already the bar set that I've used quite often. There's the living room set that I've used for the holiday special. The office set that I've used for a couple of the Grand Bastardo videos. So having a lot of sets really doesn't mean that I'm going to necessarily use them all, or even use any of them. I might get my wildcard package and just decide, you know what, none of these sets make any lick of sense to use them. So I'm just going to put these aside and create something entirely new. But I have these sets already ready to go for other things, especially Grand Bastardo videos, which will be, expanding throughout the next little while as we get into longer-term storylines, as I mentioned in the last podcast. So that was the first question. The second question was very similar in terms of story ideas. Did I not feel that this might have been kind of jumping the gun and sort of stacking the deck in my favor? And the answer again, no, not really. Because typically speaking, these wildcard packages, if they follow along the same lines as other events that I've seen, like the 48-hour film festival, it's typically you have to be given a character name, you have to use a specific line of dialogue, a certain prop has to be prominently featured. Sometimes you're given specific material to work with in terms of the soundtrack. And that's why I mentioned in the last podcast, I'm really hoping the rules allow me to use the song that I was able to get permission to use by a band called Used for Comparison, because the song is really great. I love this song. It would be a shame if the rules didn't allow me to use it, because I was stuck using other tracks that I might not like quite as much, and probably won't like quite as much. And no matter what, I'm going to find a way to use this track one way or another. If anything, just because I was given permission to use it, and I'd like to see this band get as much exposure as possible, even if it's only a few extra people that are not already on their fans list that happen to come from the TFC side of things. So, yeah, the whole pre-production thing, I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about someone calling me out and saying, cheater. In terms of story ideas, no story idea ever really comes out of a vacuum. You always have little ideas floating around here or there, even if it's only in the back of your mind, even if you're only subtly conscious of it, or, it's just below the surface, and sometimes all you need is a spark to kind of get it going. I just want to get things out down on, down into a notepad where I can compile story ideas, because even if I don't, again, use these ideas for the OIFF 72, I might just be using them somewhere else. And so, no loss. If anything, it just makes it easier for me to create more content for all of you a little bit faster. And I don't see that as a bad thing at all. So, that's my piece on the OIFF for now. Of course, once again, it's all kicking off on Thursday evening, February the 12th, 2015. I already have a few people who've stepped forward and said that they wanted to collaborate with me on the project, lending their voice talents, and I'm very thankful for this. I will be giving out a full list of shout-outs and thank yous as we get a little closer either a little closer to the project or just after the project completes. And of course, anyone who doesn't want to actually join in on the collaboration but wouldn't mind, maybe prompting their friends to go see the film on the OIFF.ca website, once the judging portion of the competition opens, I'd be very thankful if those of you who did watch the film and thought it was something that was cool would share it with your friends, but I'll get more into that as we get closer to that time. We still, as I said, we're 3 weeks away. I don't want to be sort of planning everything out and plotting out timelines that aren't really set in stone yet. Moving along to the s.g.n.r photo side of things, the first of the new, edition of s.g.n.r photo videos is now live on the YouTube channel. The links have been up on the Facebook fan page for the past couple of days. And I have to say, it's been a bit of an experience with all of this. If you'll recall, I put up a video sampler not too terribly long ago with two different styles of animation and asking which of the two people preferred, whether, style A, style B, with each style being done in a different program. And the style that won out was the program I ended up using for this particular episode of Ask s.g.n.r. And one of the reasons why the video is a little bit shorter than one might expect for such a long production cycle, it's going to be the first part in a multi-part series. And the reason for that is I didn't want to get into fatigue. I didn't want to get into a fatigue factor. I figure about a 5 to 6 minute video for something like that, and breaking it up into multiple parts, if it's going to be longer or significantly longer than that, we'll probably do a couple of things. One, it will kind of relieve any possibility of getting bored by the video. I do want things that I put out to be somewhat entertaining, so I don't want to bore people. The next thing, it's easier to animate. It's easier to produce multiple shorter episodes than it is to take one big long episode and hit a big topic at one stretch. The other thing it's also going to let me do is go over the learning curve of this particular program again. The video was done in a program called Movie Storm, which is a sort of a 3D animatic type of program. It's not a let's try that again. Strictly speaking, it's not an animation program. It's not a 3D animation program like you would get with, say, 3D Max or Maya or Blender or something like that, where you really, from the very beginning, you create the skeleton, you flesh it out, you add the textures, etc. These are more animation sequencing programs. You take a sort of a cast of stock characters, you manipulate these characters or customize these characters, morph these characters in ways that the program allows. Change hairstyles, change skin tones, change the apparent aging of these characters, etc. You change, wardrobe style, whatnot. And then you run them through basically sequences of preset animations. So the walking animation is a preset walking animation. I can't significantly change someone's gait. I can't just, decide to give someone a limp unless there's a limping animation. I can't, for example, just have someone, perform a gesture that hasn't already been pre-programmed into the system and that's available to me for use. So it's a little tricky that way. It's not quite animation. It's not quite, cookie cutter type of things. You can arrange things in very intricate patterns. But when it comes right down to it, it's a lot like digital puppetry. And you have a set list of things that you can actually accomplish. And the way that the digital puppetry in Movie Storm works is fairly different. It's actually pretty significantly different from what I use in Movie Zoo, which is the other program that I use, which is similarly a 3D animation sequencer that I use to produce the Gran Bastardo. So, having worked with Movie Zoo rather extensively over the past couple of months, putting together Gran Bastardo shorts, I kind of have to step back and, kind of go over the learning curve again of Movie Storm, to kind of get that, kind of under my belt and get a little more comfortable and make the animations look a little more natural. So, suffice it to say, I'm not 100% satisfied with the way that the first video came out. I don't think it's a bad video. I don't think it's a damaging video. I don't think it's something that hurts s.g.n.r photo in any way. I don't think it makes me look foolish in any way. I hope. I do hope people find a little bit of entertainment in it. Obviously as I get a little bit more comfortable with the features and how the system works and how I can tweak things to more to my advantage, the videos are going to get better in terms of their production value. And, you can see that with the Gran Bastardo videos. The first couple of them were not so great. They are starting to get better. They're starting to get a little more detailed, a little more fine-tuned. Although not too refined, that would kind of defeat the whole purpose of everything. And so creating a lot of short videos allows me to refine my technique a little bit at a time until things start looking a lot better and, then the production quality can come up. Although the one thing I can say with absolute certainty is that the production value of that particular video is probably light years ahead of any type of production value I could put together for a kind of live video at this time. And that's pretty much our show for today. I hope you found this sort of crossbreeding of thoughts from my car and the TFC interesting and entertaining. If this works out well, we may just move to this type of recording format for the Thoughts from My Car podcasts. If it makes it easier to listen to, more enjoyable for each and every one of you. If it is more enjoyable for every one of you, please do leave me some feedback somewhere. You can leave it through the Facebook fan page. You can leave it through YouTube channel comments. You can leave it by email. And I'll give you all of the details right now. If you want to send me an email to let me know what you think about the TFC, you can always send me an email at inbox@talesfromthecreek.ca. You can also visit our website at www.talesfromthecreek.ca. You can leave us a message on Twitter. We can be found at Creek Tales, CREEKTALES. And for those of you who are looking for our Tales from the Creek Facebook fan page, facebook.com/Creek Tales. From the s.g.n.r photo side of things, because this is a dual episode of both Thoughts from My Car and the TFC. If you want to drop a line to s.g.n.r Photo, you can reach me inbox@sgnr.photo. I can also be found on Twitter at s.g.n.r Photo. And the Facebook fan page, of course, facebook.com/s.g.n.r Photo. I'm not really sure how to sign this one off. And, of course, the reason being, this is essentially a dual episode. It's an episode of two different podcasts, kind of combined into one. But since I'm behind the wheel of my car, and I'm recording, and this is also a Thoughts from My Car podcast, we'll just end it off by saying until next time, drive safe.